けだよね。
Good morning. Welcome and thank you for joining us for today's Dharma Family Service, either in person or virtually via Zoom. I am Hetty Casquillo-Gray and I will be serving as your MC. Assisting at the temple with technical support are Zoom crew members Alan Matsumoto and Darren and Lynn Katayama. Corinne Chong is our organist today and Betty Takioka will lead the singing. Please rise and let us start the service with the Vandana and Tisarana. Please chant both the Pali and English parts together with Reverend Blayne. Those of you on Zoom, be sure you have muted your mics. Please remain standing for. Go ahead.
Butsunamanda, 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 Butsunamanda.
Please remain standing and let us start this. Oops, sorry. Please remain standing for an aspiration which I will share with you. These are the words of Reverend Guillaume Kubose. Where you stand is most important. Act when it's necessary to you, not according to others. When your mind, heart, and your whole life tells you to say or do, then do completely. The middle path is not 50-50. It is not give or take. It is the complete way. It is doing things 100%. This is the middle way. Namo Amida Butsu.
Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu.
Please be seated. It is now time for the offering of incense. We invite all Sangha members in attendance to please come up and offer incense if you wish, starting with the front rows and moving towards the back. Please use both incense burners. Let us observe a moment of silent meditation.
Namandam, 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 namandam.
Reverend Blayne will now lead us in chanting the Sutra Sambutsu-je. The words can be found on page 47 of the Jodo Shinshu service book and on the screen. Again, page 47 in the service book.
The Buddha of infinite light and life made vows to embrace all beings equally without exception. These vows promise to create a perfect world where no suffering or evil exists and guides us to supreme awakening. The Sambutsuge, or hymn in praise of the Buddha, is a poem from the larger Pure Land Sutra in which Amida Buddha, as a bodhisattva, praises his teacher and makes his 48 vows to establish the Pure Land of enlightenment for the welfare and the happiness of all beings. We chant the words of the Buddha as a reminder of these great vows made to awaken all. The hymn in praise of the Buddha. し諸国如是諸人二人など両がサブ国土第一五種奇妙道場超絶国如内音ニムトソガトアイミンドダニサイジェポライショシェンネンショジョイトガコゲラクアンノンコブンシンミョゼガシンショホンガンノヒリキショショヨジェポセソンチエムゲ上領子孫親が信行下領親子食読中画行精進年中不下ナマナブナマナブナマナブナマナブナマナブナマナブナマナナマンダブツナマンダブツナマンダブツ。
Please rise for singing of the Gatha at our altar. Words can be found on pages 16 to 17 in the Praises of the Buddha Gatha book and on the screen. Again, pages 16 and 17 in the Gatha book.
Yeah, please rise. I'm going to test if you folks remember the tune because we did this last month. Okay, so we have to repeat so we remember the melody, but I'm going to go over again the first verse. We do 2 lines at a time and then we'll go over the whole song, okay? All right, Corinne? Okay, ready? First 2 lines. Each morning I awake Okay, now we're going to run through all 3 verses. I want to hear more volume, please. Okay, singing makes everybody happy. Okay, so sing loud. Okay, all right, Corinne. Okay. Each morning I awake to see Amida's face, so good and kind. I think he says, "Good morning, child." He's glad to start the day with me. Each night before I go to bed, I sit before our altar bright, with pretty flowers, candlelight, and incense curling round my head. I bow my head, I clasp my hands, and thank the Lord with all my might for teachings that will bring truth's light to many folks in many lands. Pretty good, pretty good. We're gonna keep singing this repeat until you guys get really good, okay?
You may be seated. Reverend Blayne will share today's Dharma message.
Namanda, Vutsunamanda, 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 Vutsunamanda. Hi, good morning, everybody. So, have you ever noticed the golden panels above the altar? If you look closely, you will see beautifully carved flowers and birds. And in the center panels here, you will find golden peacocks, which hold significance and spiritual meaning in our tradition. According to Reverend Ken Yamada, Higashi Honganji priest, he says peacocks are well known for their beautiful and colorful feathers, right? Which they seemingly proudly display. But did you know that in India, peacocks are known to eat poisonous plants? They consume fruits and seeds and roots and a variety of plants, but they're omnivores, which means they also eat insects, worms, small reptiles, and amphibians. Among the creatures they find on the ground are snakes, right? And so peacocks have the ability to eat poisonous snakes. And so some people believe that this poison that they ingest gives peacocks feathers, an especially bright sheen and their color. You know, in Buddhism, snakes often symbolize anger, one of the 3 poisons of human nature. The other 2 are greed, symbolized by the rooster, and ignorance, symbolized by the pig. These 3 creatures are depicted in the center of the Tibetan Buddhist wheel of life, right? So that these 3 poisons make our world turn, right? Because we're always subject to these poisons, right, in our daily lives. And so all symbols in Buddhism are considered upaya, or expedient means, or hoben in Japanese, and as a way for us to more deeply understand ourselves and life. In a famous sermon at the end of his life, Shakyamuni Buddha told the parable of the finger pointing to the moon. How many of you saw the moon last night? And I think we have a full moon coming up, either tonight or tomorrow, right? So, in which he warned people, right, not to focus on the finger, but to see the moon. Symbols are the finger pointing to the truth about ourselves. From this perspective, peacocks represent the Buddha Dharma, the teachings leading to understanding. The Dharma can take our anger and transform it into something beautiful, something different. Compassion and understanding. That precious message is what peacocks are trying to tell us. And so I've been reflecting on this teaching of transformation, right, and change found in the symbol of the peacock over the past week since renowned musical legend Tina Turner, once known as the Queen of Rock and Roll, passed away at the age of 83 on May 24th. Now, best known for her dynamic, powerful, and award-winning stage performer, she was also a practicing Buddhist for the past 50 years. And so she credits her practice of Soka Gakkai Nichiren Buddhism as a source of her strength and the reason she was able to overcome the many obstacles in her life, from domestic abuse, discrimination, personal and professional challenges, to life-threatening illness. She found comfort and courage in the Buddha's teaching. Now, Nichiren Buddhism is another school of Buddhism which is based on the teachings of Nichiren Shonin, a Buddhist monk who lived in 13th century Japan. Now, Nichiren believed that the Lotus Sutra, a Mahayana Buddhist text, was the highest of all the Buddhist teachings, and he taught that chanting the title of the scripture, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, was the way for all people to reveal their inherent potential for awakening and to attain Buddhahood. And so Tina Turner was introduced to this Buddhist practice in 1973, and it profoundly transformed her life. She believed Buddhism has taught me that hidden inside of our challenges are the lessons we must learn in order to break through to a better life. As hard as that might be to grasp in the midst of difficult times, when we can see our problems from that perspective, things naturally change. Then even the impossible becomes possible. And reflecting on the place of power, reflecting on the place and the power of spiritual practice in our lives, I turned my thoughts to how the Nembutsu in Jodo Shinshu, in this tradition, is the spiritual practice of opening ourselves up to the dynamic working of wisdom and compassion in our lives. Our founder, Shinran Shonin, discusses the nature of spiritual practice in his writing. He says, "The great practice is to say the name of the Tathagata unhindered light. This practice, embodying all good acts and possessing all roots of virtue, is perfect and most rapid in bringing them to fullness. It is the treasure ocean of virtues that is suchness or true reality. For this reason, it is called great practice." And what he's referring to is the Nembutsu, the name of the Buddha, Namo Amida Butsu, as the practice given to us by Amida Buddha to be able to encounter and to live this life of spiritual fulfillment. Shin Buddhist minister and scholar Professor Mark Uno describes the practice of Nembutsu in this way. He says, "The heart of Pure Land practice is chanting the name of Amida Buddha, the Buddha of infinite light. Namo Amida Butsu is a practice known as the Nembutsu, literally mindful of the Buddha, Nen, to think on, Butsu, Buddha, to think on the Buddha." The name comes from Sanskrit, the classical language of Buddhist India, Namo Amitabha Buddha. In China, this becomes Namo Amitofo, and in Japan, Namo Amida Butsu. Namo comes from namas, as in Sanskrit, in the Sanskrit phrase of namaste, which means I bow to you. Bowing is an act of humility on the part of the ordinary human being who is filled with attachments and delusions. Amitabha Buddha signifies the awakening of infinite light, the illumination of emptiness and oneness that arises from the deepest reality of truth itself. Thus, in Shin Buddhism, chanting Namo Amida Butsu means I, this foolish one, this foolish being filled with attachments and blind passions, entrust myself to the awakening of infinite light, the boundless compassion that arises from the oneness of reality. Our practice, as mentioned in my message last week, is the Nembutsu of everyday life, in which we are mindful of the Buddha and constantly say the Nembutsu in whatever condition we find ourselves in. This is why our true place of practice in the Pure Land path is our ordinary everyday lives. Well, it's important to come to temple. I'm glad you're all here, right? But it's so important to be able to practice every day of our lives in every moment. That is the gift that we have been given of the Nembutsu, to be able to encounter that which is beyond us, that world of enlightenment, always coming to us, always present in our lives, if we take the time to realize it. And when we realize that gift of the Buddha's awakening in our lives, Namo Amida Butsu comes from deep within, in gratitude for that working of wisdom and compassion that enables us to be who we are. Right? So each moment with Namo Amida Butsu reveals to us a world of transformation, of hope, of change. In an interview, Tina Turner once said, "As I began studying Buddha's teachings and chanting more, it led me to take responsibility for my life and to base my choices on wisdom, courage, and compassion. Not long after I started chanting, I began to see that the power I needed to change my life was already in me." This radical shift in perspective, right, is the promise of the Dharma. The Buddha's teachings help us to understand and to manage life with greater kindness, compassion, and equanimity. In this Pure Land path, the Nembutsu, Namo Amida Butsu, is a promise from Amida Buddha to embrace and never abandon. Namo Amida Butsu holds us in our joys and in our sorrows, and transforms our ignorance into wisdom, our greed into generosity, and our anger into love. Namo Amida Butsu can help us to meet life's challenges with greater courage, greater comfort, and greater peace. And when we open our hearts up to the working of Amida, we can be led out of spiritual darkness into light. In our daily lives, we often fail to recognize these quiet moments of awakening, of realization. However, the Dharma is our light in the darkness, enabling us to see that there is always hope for transformation and change. We simply need to open our eyes to see it. Namo Amida Butsu is boundless love and compassion, which is ever present in our lives. We are embraced and sustained by its light in times of both joy and sorrow, in times of struggle and challenge. And the Nembutsu is our comfort when we are sad, it is our strength when we need courage, and it is our light when all other lights go out. One of my favorite stories about the power of the Nembutsu, a power of this practice, comes from Bishop Marvin Harada's book, Discovering Buddhism in Everyday Life. In it, he shares a lesson from his teacher, Reverend Ashikaga, who in turn learned this story from his teacher, Yasuda Sensei, who once said, "Many people think that the Nembutsu, Namo Amida Butsu, means something like this, that you take a big load off your shoulders and you let out a big sigh of relief, like you've put down a backpack. That's what people think Namo Amida Butsu means, that you can relax and feel relieved with a burden lifted from your shoulders. But I don't think that's what Namo Amida Butsu means. I think Namo Amida Butsu means the opposite, that instead you put a big load on your shoulders, a big responsibility or a task, and now you have the power to stand up on your own 2 feet and to move forward in life. That, to me, is what Namo Amida Butsu means. Reverend Harada goes on to say, if we find the teachings of Buddhism and Jodo Shinshu to be of value in our lives, if we find that the Nembutsu has illuminated our hearts and minds, then we must do what we can to allow it to be shared and to carried on by others. That is the power to stand up and to move forward. It is the power that comes from beyond our own ego self. It is a power that makes the load on our shoulders lighter than what it really is. It is a power that not only allows us to stand up on our own 2 feet, but somehow it feels as if it is pushing us up from behind. I reflect on this story often, as I find it meaningful in helping me to face the challenges of my life with greater acceptance, greater courage. In reflecting on how her spiritual practice empowered her to radically transform her life, Tina Turner said, "Choosing hope is crucial, as is finding ways to use our difficulties to move forward." In my life, there were a lot of so-called impossible circumstances that I couldn't control or change. But my epiphany was that through my spiritual practice, I could change my way of responding to challenges. I realized that the most valuable help comes from within. Just like how a peacock neutralizes poison, turning it into something beautiful, so too our practice of Nembutsu results in a profound spiritual transformation. Professor Mark Uno goes on to share an appreciation for this practice. He says, ultimately, the chanting does not come from the conscious self, the ego self. It arises from the deepest reality of the self, emptiness, or from the formless Buddha nature beyond form, beyond words. When we chant Namo Amida Butsu, continuous practice and deep realization merge. It is like learning to play the violin. When one truly devotes oneself to practice, repetition, and profound, inspired performance go hand in hand. There is the experience of the music flowing through one, rather than being conscious of oneself as the musician or the subject manipulating the object. Subject and object, musician and music become one. The poet T.S. Eliot writes of music heard so deeply that it is not heard at all, but you are the music while the music lasts. This is also true for the practice of chanting Namo Amida Butsu. When one is truly steeped in the practice, it occurs not through conscious effort, but arises spontaneously from the deepest self, the self of emptiness and great compassion. The goal of Shin Buddhism is to bring all beings to liberation. The chanting of Namo Amida Butsu signifies this with the realization that I am already embraced in boundless compassion. However, I have yet to realize this in practice. Already, but not yet. All beings are one with me in the deep flow of oneness. Therefore, I am moved to become one with all beings. Right? This is why in our practice we chant. We chant the sutras together, so our voices become one. We become one with this timeless working of the universe, the sound of the universe, of Namo Amida Butsu, that is ever flowing in our lives, through our lives. And so each morning I go before my home altar to think on the Buddha and to chant the Nembutsu in gratitude for the inconceivable working of wisdom and compassion in my life. This practice over time has deepened my awareness for the infinite and has changed the way I respond to life and its many challenges, right? As Tina Turner discovered, and as people who practice a spiritual path realize that through constant practice, through this development, this cultivation, our perspective changes, right? Our awareness is expanded, right? We become more, and we feel more, and we understand more about ourselves and the world around us. And we leave fear behind, right? To be able to face whatever is in front of us with equanimity, with joy, with compassion. And so this is the Nembutsu of everyday life that I can access each moment of the day in whatever situation I find myself in. The Nembutsu enables me to see my life and the world with clarity and with hope. This is the power of spiritual practice. And as Tina Turner believed, when you can see clearly, you can transform any situation. This is how, through spiritual practice, she lived the middle path by giving not 50-50, but 100% in all that she did. This is the life of freedom and fulfillment that the Dharma enables us to live. So please join me in Gassho for a closing reflection. The words of the Myokonin, Saichi. As to Namo Amida Butsu, it is ever with me, I am ever with it. While sleeping, Namo Amida Butsu. While awake, Namo Amida Butsu. While walking or resting, sitting or lying, Namo Amida Butsu. Entrusting in the dynamic working of all-inclusive wisdom and all-embracing compassion, we call the honored name of Amida, the Buddha of infinite light and life, our great practice in gratitude, joy, and awareness. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu. So thank you again for being here this morning. And so as we remember the remarkable life of Tina Turner, let's listen to her song, When the Heartache is Over, and reflect on the strength she found within herself through the practice of the Dharma.
Once in a lifetime you'll find someone to show you the way, someone to make your decisions, but I let you lead me astray. Who did you think you were fooling? Said you were missing the blind, but the truth is I knew you were lying. You were using me time after time. When the heartache is over, I know I won't be missing you. Won't look over my shoulder, 'cause I know that I can live without you. Oh, live without you. Oh, I can live without you. Time to move on with my life now, leaving the past all behind. I can make my own decisions. It will only a matter of time. Sometimes I look back in anger, thinking about all the pain. But I know that I'm stronger without you, and that I'll never need you again. When the heartache is over, I know I won't be missing you. Won't look over my shoulder, 'cause I know that I can live without you. Oh, live without you.
Thank you for your message, Reverend Blayne, especially the Tina Turner. Joey Gooseman will lead us in unison reading of the three treasures. Words can be found on the handouts and on the screen. Please join him in reciting the words out loud.
How rare and wondrous it is to have been born into human life, and now I live it. How rare and wondrous is it to be able to listen to the Buddha Dharma, and now I am able to hear it. If I do not transcend the world of delusion in this life, when will I ever attain spiritual liberation? May I, along with the entire Sangha, with sincere heart and mind, rely on that which can truly be relied on in life, the three treasures. I rely on the Buddha. May I, along with all sentient beings, awaken to the great path with my entire being and discover the highest aspiration, which is to become a Buddha. I rely on the Dharma. May I, along with all sentient beings, really reflect on the meanings of the sutras and gain wisdom that is as deep and vast as the ocean. I rely on the Sangha. May I, along with all sentient beings, become one Sangha of life, able to move forward, live with a dynamic spirit that is hindered by nothing. The unsurpassed, deep, and wondrous Dharma, even in millions of kalpas, is extremely difficult to encounter. But now I am able to experience and embrace it. May I come to understand and revere the true meaning of the Tathagata. Namo Amida Butsu.
Thank you, Joey. We will now have the offertory presentation. Mahalo for your generosity, everyone. Please rise as we will conclude this service with singing of the Gata Nembutsu.
Namandab, 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 namandab. Namandab.
You may be seated. This concludes today's service. Here are some announcements. Upcoming schedule of services, events, and reminders. Next Sunday, June 11th, Boy Scouts will be sponsoring the annual Military Remembrance Service at 10 a.m. We will be honoring those servicemen and women who paid the ultimate sacrifice so that we can continue to live in a democratic society. Father's Day service will be observed on Sunday, June 18th at 10 a.m. Please make every effort to attend, as our very special guest speaker will be Bishop Eric Matsumoto. As you know, his term as Bishop of Honpa Honwanji Mission of Hawaii will be ending as of June 30. Therefore, this will be our last opportunity to hear his Dharma message as bishop. In addition, he will be bringing the original sandalwood image of Amida Buddha that is the companion to the current one in our altar. It has now been restored, and he would like to share it with us. After the service, to express our appreciation for his 12 years of serving as our bishop, if you are able to, please bring a light finger food type dish to share during our Mahalo Fellowship time. Sunday, June 25th, is regular Dharma family service will be held at 10 a.m. Linda Nagai will be our Sangha speaker. Reminders. Be sure to open, read, and click on attachments and interesting links that were included with Reverend Blayne's weekly update, which he emailed this past Friday. 2023 temple membership update forms have been mailed out and are also attached to Reverend Blayne's email. Please be sure to complete and return them as soon as possible. Mahalo. Free COVID kits as well as 125th anniversary merchandise are still available. Any other announcements? Reverend Blayne?
Oh, I'd just like to welcome Maya, who's visiting us from Oakland. She's a member of the Oakland Buddhist Temple. Welcome.
Anyone else have any announcements? Okay. Those of you on Zoom, when you are ready to leave, just tap or click on the Leave Meeting button on your screen. Those of you here in person, refreshments will be served in the conference room. Mahalo to Mali Nakano, Nancy Ann Katayama, and anyone else who brought goodies to share. Your attendance today is most sincerely appreciated. Please stay safe, and we hope to see you at future Sunday services. Thank you.
And thank you to Hedy for being our MC today. Yay!